Okay, this is a live show. This is Mr. Kamal with policeabuse.com, and I'm in my office in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm about to broadcast some evidence in the Daniel Linsinbigler homicide involving Clay County deputies. I want to give the family and anyone who's viewing this broadcast an update on some background information. Several months ago, we started a case, an investigation, after it was reported that a young man was killed through suffocation or asphyxiation in the Clay County Jail. The Sheriff's Office conducted its own investigation, and each week we're going to be airing the interviews, the actual interviews with the correctional officers. And I'll be frank with you, I'm not really happy about what I've listened to. What I've heard does not indicate professionalism, and there are many, many questions that I have about the approach that the investigator took from FDLE with regard to interviewing these witnesses. And I'll start with one of the most notorious examples. There's a correctional officer named Rodney Holston who is accused by not only other inmates of behaving inappropriately, but I actually listened to his interview. I'm going to play a portion of it. I played the full interview last week, but the reason I am raising an issue about it now is because we got a new call which corroborates my initial feelings about this interview that I listened to, and I'll give you my comments. The Linsinbigler family is watching this, so I want to speak directly to them right now and tell you what I think. When I listened to the recording of this particular officer who was involved in the killing of your son, I almost feel like he's proud of his work, and he says he feels bad about it, but that's not the air that I got. In fact, it almost seemed like he was doing a victory lap. He was taking the opportunity to repeatedly pat himself on the back. The interviewer, the investigator from FDLE, in my opinion, did not ask a single hard question. Not one. I mean, I don't even know why he talked to the guy. He should have just given him a microphone and let him talk and then walked out of the room, because all the questions were softball pretty much. He doesn't ask him really about the use of force or the necessity for the use of force, or how it came about that Daniel died, or how long he sat there before anyone noticed that he was dead, how long it took him to get care. I mean, there's so many questions that were not asked. I almost feel like it was a waste of time to do the interview, with one exception. It will expose to the public what you actually get when the police say that they're doing an investigation. When they have to wash their own laundry, what do you actually get to hear? What do you get to actually see? So I'm going to take a moment and play a portion of that interview, and then I want to play a phone call that I received from a new complainant, basically corroborating the points that I'm making here now, that it doesn't appear that the Clay County Sheriff's Office as a group, as an organization, and amongst individuals is remorseful about the Linsinbigler homicide. In fact, the second witness, a parent of this witness, now points out that they're bragging about it, that they were actually threatening this young man to do the same thing to him if he didn't behave in a more suitable fashion within the confines of the jail. So let me start now by replaying the interview with Deputy Holston, and then I'm going to provide some additional background information, and I'm going to play a recent interview with a family who has also now reported misconduct about Clay County.
13, approximately 12:50 hours. This is Special Agent Powell with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to speak with Rod Holston at the Clay County Jail. Okay, Rod, basically just take me through from the very beginning contact you had with Daniel Linsinbigler. Is that how you say his name?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and just just kind of run me through what happened with it.
Okay. I was assigned to Delta Wing, and in between my travels, I overheard basically an officer needed assistance. There was a disturbance in confinement.
You know about what time?
It was around 8 o'clock, 8:15, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
So at that time, I proceeded. Of course, it's a busy time.
Yep.
court and everything else, but I was finished with my tasks, so I headed over there. I'm a senior officer on the team, and I'm known for being able to talk to people.
Okay. Now, what team? You said on the team?
My team is B team.
Okay.
We have
all right.
4 teams assigned to the jail. So,
I'm going to stop it right there for just a moment and comment because I don't want to play the whole interview. But this officer repeatedly makes points or raises issues that really are not relevant to the investigation about what a good guy he is and how he's good with working with people, and he's a big guy and he's not afraid of. I mean, it was just really a lot of sauce of irrelevant things that don't have anything to do with the investigation, and I don't know why the investigator is wasting time on this sort of stuff in a serious investigation like this. But again, it's a 13-minute interview, and if you listen to this and you hear a hard question, somebody send me an email over the internet, because I didn't hear a single question to this guy that actually dug into any of the major issues in this case.
Okay, Rod. Basically, just take me through from the very beginning contact you had with Daniel Linsinbigler. Is that how you say his name?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and just just kind of run me through, what happened with it.
Okay. I was assigned to Delta Wing, and in between my travels, I overheard basically an officer needed assistance. There was a disturbance in confinement.
You know about what time?
It was around 8 o'clock, 8:15, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
So at that time, I proceeded. Of course, it's a busy time.
Yep.
Court and everything else, but I was finished with my tasks, so I headed over there. I'm a senior officer on the team, and I'm known for being able to talk to people.
Okay. Now, what team? You said on the team?
My team is B team.
Okay.
We have 4 teams assigned to the jail. So, when I arrived on scene, confinement, cell 2, the inmate was banging, screaming, kicking the door. And I went up to the door, had Deputy Bloodsworth and McDade step aside, new face, thought I could resolve the issue. I talked to him for a few minutes, got him to calm down. He was cursing, screaming, very irate. Did a lot of hand sign language, saying he wanted to protect himself, and I didn't know what he meant by that, and I was trying to get him to explain to me what did he mean, protect himself. At that point, I've never had any contact with this inmate before.
So this is the first time you've
That's the first time I've ever dealt with him. I went and pulled myself away after I got him calmed down a little bit and found out, what he was there for, and that, possibly he's, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, he started yelling and screaming again. I went back to the window, talked to him, got him calmed down again. At that time, Captain Waugh arrived on scene, Sergeant Heaps arrived on scene, along with Deputy Acosta, and of course Deputy Bloodsworth was already there, and Deputy Wolf was monitoring all the monitors of all the inmates. Tried to calm him down. Basically, I wanted to make entry into the cell, so I asked him if he'd cuff up so I could talk to him.
And cuff up's when they put their hands outside the window?
Put their hands out the beam flap and cuff up. At that point, we can transport the inmate. He said he started to do it, and then he pulled back as I was starting to put the first cuff on. Everything at this point was very low key, no yelling, screaming.
Okay.
And I explained to him, once again, I talked to him real calmly and brought him down, told him, I'm here to help you, what's wrong, and he went again off the handle. He said, no, I'm not going to cuff up, throw me the cuffs, I'll cuff myself up. I said, buddy, I can't do that. That's something we can't do, it's not policy. If you cuff up, I'll come in there and I'll get to talk to you, and we'll figure out what's wrong with you. See what I can do to help you. At that point, he said, no. I lost him again at that point. He became loud.
Does he be violent? Is he banging on the walls? Or
he was kicking. When I first came in, he's kicking the door, punching the door. which happens very frequently in confinement. And at this point, not knowing his mental state, I didn't want him to hurt himself. He was already in a suicide gown. At some point, he took that off in his rage.
Okay, so what was he wearing?
He was naked
Okay,
at one
nothing.
point.
Okay.
And then I asked him to put his clothes back on, and I'll talk to him, and I'll treat him like a man with respect. And once again, had him calm down. This transpired about maybe 7 minutes of me trying to calm him down. Doing a pretty good job. However, it was like a light bulb switch, on and off, on and off. So at the point where he started getting angry again, I backed off and I talked to Sergeant Heaps and Captain Wall. Captain Wall then went to speak with him. And he told him, listen, we're going to help you, just relax. No, F that. He said, listen, you keep banging on the door. I walked away, so knowing how things go, I know what he was saying.
Okay, let me just interject here, because this is where I have to transition over to some of the other witnesses. I'll go further into this deputy's comments at a later time, and I will play the entire interview for anyone who wants to hear it. We actually have it already published, but I want to say a few things about where we are right here. Yeah, he's a big guy, and he hates to use chemical spray, but we have another witness who knows this deputy and is actually a relative of this deputy by marriage. And that witness recently reported that the same officer who is reluctant to use chemical spray, according to his testimony made to FDLE, was actually bragging about using the spray. And according to the witness, whom we've already recorded, this deputy was laughing about it and basically saying that he emptied a can down Daniel Linsinbigler's throat and wasn't remorseful about it at all. So it contradicts what he is saying here to FDLE. I want the Linsinbigler family to know that there's a problem with this man's testimony, because it can't go both ways. If the witness is telling the truth, who's a relative of Deputy Holston, then there is a problem. I want to move to one other issue that came up involving this same deputy, because, as I said, I felt his attitude was a bit cavalier given the circumstances. I thought he was not remorseful, and you'll hear more of that if you listen to the full interview. He's basically patting himself on the back and showing what an expert he is. But the real issue is the investigator is not asking any probing questions. He's just, I didn't have a problem with it initially, because normally in an investigative interview you let the person get a full opportunity to just let it all out, and then you ask questions after you've taken notes. But in this case, he never comes back to any serious questions. This is a 13-minute interview, and somebody's dead. I would need to know more than what I got in these 13 minutes. But let me move to the next issue, which is a second witness that came forward about this case.
Okay, Mr. Pike, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, this is Mr. Kamal with PoliceAbuse.com, and I responded to an email that you sent, and I want to tell you all of our calls are recorded, so I just want to make you aware of that. But
And mine.
oh, and yours as well. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem.
Sit here with me. Okay.
Not a problem. So here's what I want to do. You left a message, or you sent an email containing information about a threat that was made against your son. And I want to give you a chance to tell me more about that. And then afterwards, I'll ask you to stop recording, because at that point, you will have given me your statement. And whatever I'm going to tell you, I do not want to be public. I'm going to give you some advice and tell you some of the things that I think need to be done.
Understood. What we have is cameras and audio that's in this room that we're in right now. Mm-hmm. And as long as I'm picking up the phone talking, there's nothing being recorded. So
okay.
Whenever whenever you're ready for me to do that, just let me know.
Okay, perfect. All right, so here's what I want to say. you know, you reported something that's pretty serious, but and the most important point you made for me is that it involves a case that I already have that I'm working on involving Daniel Linsinbigler. And you indicated that your son received a threat that he could end up in the same situation, which is dead. And I want to know who made that threat. I also noted that you also made a complaint to the Clay County Sheriff's Office, and you, to some extent, were deterred, or at least your son was deterred by being told, let it go. I also want to know more about that. And then if you can give me an update on the status of your complaint with Clay County, I'd like to hear what that is.
Absolutely. To begin with, I'm talking to my son. Of course, all of their calls are recorded through Clay County.
Mm-hmm.
So any information that you'd like to verify, I'm sure that you can pull the records there.
Okay.
But we were on the jail phone, if you will, and my son is telling myself and my wife that somebody there had threatened him. And the threat was basically concerning, you don't want to have what happened to the guy earlier to happen to you. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it was obvious that he was talking about Daniel.
Okay.
And my son told me that, and after I heard that, I immediately called back down there because I wanted to talk to this Mr. Wellington to find out, you know, what exactly is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And evidently they took that as a threat that I wanted to go down there and kick somebody's butt because they mentioned that to my son. Your dad wants to come down here and kick somebody's butt. I mean, it's almost like they made it into a game. But nonetheless, I talked to a lieutenant that called me back. It was a female. I don't remember her name. I do remember the gentleman later on that night that called me. But the female told me that we are taking this seriously.
Okay, again, I'm going to stop it there. Clay County is supposedly investigating whether they are or they are not. I don't know. But essentially what this gentleman goes on to report is that his son was intimidated, prevented from proceeding with a complaint, that his parents then had to intercede in order to look further into this, to get the sheriff's office to look into this. And at this stage, I believe that they are only looking at it now because we're looking at it. We've already contacted the sheriff's office on this and on a second complaint. To the Linsinbigler family, I'm going to place these files in your Google Drive folder. I will make the files available to you at a later date. I want you to hear the entire recording, but there are things that I'm working out now with the Pike family that I don't necessarily want on the air public until I've had a chance to finish what I'm doing. So I'm going to stop the recording here. I also have at least 10 more interviews that we will be playing over the next several weeks. And for the next 5 weeks at least, every Friday for the next 5 weeks, we will be playing witness statements in the Daniel Linsinbigler homicide. I actually want the public to hear from every officer who was there. And at the end of the day, I want to know if people believe what they're saying. I have some issues with it. I know the Linsinbiglers have issues with it. But we want to get enough public attention on this to get the case reopened by the state of Florida, which is what I really think needs to happen. So with that, I'm going to stop my conversation and interview. And Mr. and Mrs. Linsinbigler, I'll be calling